But Pakistan says it has launched large-scale airstrikes against Afghan militants along its shared border in retaliation for what it called an unprovoked attack by the Taliban.
The violence between the neighbors occurred late last night after Kabul opened fire on Pakistani military positions.
The video released by the Taliban showed what appears to be explosions after Afghan forces fired at Pakistan's side of the border. It said it killed at least 10 Pakistani soldiers and captured at least 17 military posts, claims that Islamabad has denied. The Kabul said its attack was in retaliation against Pakistani airstrikes over the weekend, which the UN says killed at least 13 civilians.
د پاکستاني ځواکونو له لوري په ننګرهار او پکتیا ولایتونو کې د هوایي بریدونو د غچ اخیستنې په موخه باندې همداسې به د جمعې شپه 8 بجې دي په شرقي زون کې د 201 خالد بن ولید رضی الله تعالی عنه قل اردو سرحدي او پیاده ځواکونو له طرف نه په ننګرهار او کونړ ولایتونو کې پر ذکر خطاسر ما د پاکستاني ملیشو په پوسټو باندې درنه غزا پیل شو.
In response, Islamabad said it killed at least 72 Taliban members, with at least 2 of its own soldiers killed in the crossfire. Pakistan also said it destroyed an Afghan Taliban battalion headquarters, an ammunition depot, and multiple tanks. Islamabad warned of more counterattacks ahead, vowing to defend its security.
Now, the UN has called for urgent political dialogue amid fears new escalation in the conflict could fracture a fragile ceasefire. Afghan and Pakistani forces last clashed in October last year in the worst wave of fighting since the Taliban took over Kabul in 2021.
And for more on the violence along the Pakistan-Afghan border, let's speak now with Amin Saikal. He's adjunct senior fellow at the Rajaratnam School of International Studies at NTU. He joins us live this morning from Canberra. Prof, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. So there's this tit for tat going on, but again, remind us, why exactly are they fighting again? Didn't Pakistan actually welcome the Taliban when they returned in 2021?
Absolutely. And the two sides have been at loggerheads now for nearly 3 years, and they have exchanged fires across the border between them. Pakistan has alleged the Afghanistan Taliban for supporting the Pakistani Taliban or the Tehreek-e-Taliban in Pakistan for a number of explosions inside Pakistan, which has taken many lives. And the Afghan Taliban have really denied that. But all the evidence tell us that Afghanistan Taliban have supported the Pakistani Taliban, and they have allowed them to take residence inside Afghanistan, but they are also supported at the same time by Al-Qaeda, which again has swelled its numbers inside Afghanistan under the patronage of the Afghanistan or Afghan Taliban. So I think unless the Afghan Taliban really gives up their support for the Pakistani Taliban, this conflict is likely to continue and could also escalate. I mean, Pakistan in the past have bombed, for example, some of the sites in Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan. And so as a result, I think now there is a danger of the widening of this conflict.
Okay, so Professor, last year's truce and Istanbul talks kept violence down for some time, but ultimately broke down. So why did peace efforts fail to produce a durable agreement? And what could actually de-escalate tensions now?
Well, I mean, the ceasefire, which had come into existence, was extremely fragile, and it was mediated by Turkey, and also the Emirates of Qatar has been playing a role in that respect. But at the same time, the Afghanistan Taliban has forged a very close relationship with India, and New Delhi has been supporting the Afghan Taliban, and that is a major threat as far as Pakistan is concerned, given the history of the conflict between Pakistan and India. And as a result, I think the Pakistani are very much determined now to bring the Taliban into line or under their influence. But at the same time, it is very clear that what the Afghanistan Taliban doing, it's a sort of a blowback because, as you know, Pakistan supported the Afghan Taliban for 20 years during the U.S. intervention in Afghanistan and rejoiced over their success at the end to take or to return to power. But ever since, the relationship has really soured between the two sides. And also the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan, that is, they were in line, is not something that the Pakistani side has accepted it, but the Afghan sides have always disputed it. And so it's a disputed border which has really existed for well more than a century. And therefore, I think the Afghan Taliban will continue to claim that this border is artificial and the many parts of northwest frontier province of Pakistan should be really part of Afghanistan. And there has been in the past a claim that Afghanistan made for the creation of Pashtunistan, that is to create an independent state but linked to Afghanistan from the two provinces of Pakistan, that's the northwest frontier province and Baluchistan. And so therefore the relationship between Afghanistan and Pakistan has not always been rosy, and there have been major hiccups in the relationship in the past, and it looks like that now being repeated even under the Taliban rule in Afghanistan.
So, Professor, what happens now? I mean, are you expecting the conflict to be confined to border clashes as they seem to be, taking place right now? Because it would seem that the last thing these two governments need is a wider potential war.
Well, I think the danger of the widening of the war really exists there, but at the same time, I suppose then Turkey and Qatar may try to mediate again and try to restore that fragile ceasefire, but I doubt it very seriously that the ceasefire will work until such time that the Afghan Taliban give up their support for the Pakistani Taliban, and that doesn't seem to be on the cards either, simply because the Afghan Taliban are sort of worried that if they give up support for the Pakistani Taliban, those Taliban may join the ISK, which is the Islamic State branch of Khorasan operating in Afghanistan since 2016. And there is a strong rivalry between Afghanistan or Afghan Taliban and ISK. And of course, the United States is very much interested in ISK to be contained, and the Taliban has made a promise that they're doing everything possible to contain the ISK in the country. So I think the underlying factors really do not really point to the possibility of a long-term settlement between the two sides. And I think Pakistan has got the firepower and is able to really smash many areas or bases of the Afghan Taliban. But Afghan Taliban have already said that they've got tens and thousands of suicide bombers that they can send into Pakistan. And the fact that the Afghan Taliban has also established close relationship in New Delhi, that does not really help the situation at all.
Understood. Professor, just want to quickly confirm what you've been saying. The Taliban government, extending support to the militants based in the country, like the TTP. But does that support extend to giving it weapons, giving it funds, or is it just we'll allow them to operate here and do what they want?
Well, the Afghan Taliban inherited something like $7.2 billion worth of arms from the departed American and Allied forces. They don't have a very strong air force at all, but they do have all other heavy and small, light equipments with which they could support different militant groups. I mean, at the moment, there are quite a number of violent extremist groups based in Afghanistan under the patronage of the Taliban, and the Afghan Taliban may have really provided also not only logistic support to the Pakistani Taliban, but also material support, and that means in terms of equipment and financing. And I think that's what is also very much worrying Islamabad.
All right, thank you very much for your insight this morning. Amin Saikal, Adjunct Senior Fellow at Rajaratnam School of International Studies at NTU.